Co-op Mode, round 74. This is the official video game podcast of Secret Friends Unite. I'm Todd Oxtra, the co-host of the show, with my co-host with the mostest, Mr. Mark, the Canadian Carabin. Mark, remember when I used to screw that up every episode?
Yes, because it was today.
No! I'm batting 1,000.
It's all good. It's the co-host with the mostest, or the co-hostess with the most.
With the mostest.
Either way, I'm flattered and happy to be here. How you doing?
I'm doing well. We survived Halloween. You guys had you're the prime age. Love, kids having fun. Finn, you guys looked awesome in your costumes. I'm with a 15-year-old. So Logan did carve the pumpkin this year, the Taken King. It looked really impressive. Cool. I just supervised. We watched the Muppet Haunted Mansion special.
So good. I loved it.
The writing was awesome. One of the best things I've seen in years, and it's hilarious with Gonzo as the main character, which I love
well
it.
Done. Great little cameo from Jeff Keighley as one of the singing statues.
I know. I tweeted that out with Jeff Keighley. I thought, well, hey, Jeff Keighley, you going to tweet back at me? No, but that's okay. But yeah, it was fun.
Yeah, it was really, really great. I loved it. And the Lego Star Wars Terrifying Tales, if you haven't had a chance to watch that. Similarly, just like wacky kind of dumb Lego humor, but also some cool Star Wars stories. So some great Halloween stuff going around. It's been fun.
Absolutely, and they announced what Hocus Pocus 2 is coming out next year. So if you love like just spooky fun stuff, not scary, because if you want scary stuff, we did 5 weeks of horror movies on Secret Friends Unite. Donnie, if you watch Donnie in the video, dressed up like Chucky, myself as the mayor of Halloween Town, and Charlie is Captain USA, whatever we're calling him, in a onesie. Fun times. So, Mark, we recovered from our scary games, but this weekend we're going to be doing something very fun, very cool, for a good charity. So we're going to be doing Extra Life. The first time Co-op Mode is going to be involved in this, and we'll see how this goes. Neither of us, especially me, are big streamers. Like, we don't do it consistently. I'm going to give it a try. But we're doing this with the Phoenix Overdrive Nation. Lee Navarro, who's been on the podcast before, he has this great group. They're going to be Rome, New York. Joseph Moran's going to be there. A big group's going to be there. I wanted to be there, but it's just crazy. I can't fly yet. There's some stuff going on. But yeah, this is going to be a lot of fun, Mark. So
yeah,
we have our Extra Life pages out there. So please donate to either one of us or anybody on the Phoenix Overdrive team. And you're going to be doing something fun for this, Mark.
I think so. So right now, I've sent a message to the studio. So I'm hoping that everything goes according to plan, and I'm not 100% sure what the exact plan is. But I've been scheduled to get a tattoo on that Saturday, way before I knew that was the Extra Life date, or before we were going to do that. This tattoo has been pushed back. I think this is the 4th or 5th time it's been moved due to COVID lockdowns and scheduling. And then the tattoo artist ended up going on like a 2-month-long tour kind of thing of like different conventions and stuff. So it's been a long time coming, and I'm very excited. So I might be doing some sort of Ask Me Anything or Q&A or like live solo podcast kind of something from the tattoo chair, as long as they're okay with that. Like I said, I sent a message to the artist and the studio this morning, actually, once I kind of knew that everything was kind of good on the me going end. So we'll see. I'm hoping I'll be able to do something, because it's going to be at 12 noon Saturday, so like right in the middle of everything going on, and that's all I'll say for now. So hopefully, I'll be posting in the Discord, on Twitter, Facebook, everywhere. So hopefully, I don't even know exactly where I'm going to be able to stream this one, because it'll be probably just from my phone. So it could be Facebook Live, could be Twitch.
YouTube, I think, does live too.
Yeah. Maybe YouTube, yeah. So I'll figure it out. All the details will be in our Discord. So make sure you follow us there, because the rest of my streaming, I'm not sure what your plan is, but the rest of my streaming schedule, I'm not going to be able to do the 24 hours with a 17-month-old. It's just ridiculous. to try to do that. So I knew that kind of
You
going.
may be up at like 4 o'clock in the morning, but you're probably not going to be gaming at that point.
That's it. I'll be up early, but my schedule is going to be dictated by him. Um,
You could just do a live
so
stream of like Finn in his crib and say, "What is the hell is Finn doing right now? Enjoy."
and
Yeah.
it might just be like tune into my day, trying to. It's the game of keeping my 17-month-old from destroying the house. Um, so basically, my plan is right now to when I get a chance, I'm going to be streaming. Once he goes to bed, I'm going to play as much as I can, as late as I can. Um, and my wife's going to jump in. We're going to play probably some Mario Party. I just picked up the new one. Some kart, whatever's going on with the Phoenix Overdrive 2, I want to jump in. So if people are playing Mario Kart or Rocket League or whatever, I'm going to try to jump in as part of that. So the best way to keep up with what I'm going to be doing, because it's going to be sporadic, is going to be our Discord channel or Twitter. That's the main places that I'll be posting my weird schedule. So what's your game plan going into Saturday?
That's a good one because the group I'm part of, have you been invited to the Phoenix Overdrive Discord as well? They're doing all the stuff there, the coordination. So I know Sean Capri was putting out stuff that he wants to do. So I'm like, if they want to do a Halo campaign, I'll probably jump on that because I'm horrible, maybe. But Destiny 2, definitely, because I love Destiny, but I'm bad at it, but I still have a lot of fun. And a lot of those guys like Ray, oh my goodness, that's how this whole thing started. Me and Ray were part of the Destiny 1 beta. Mm-hmm. And that's how I got to know Lee, because I actually talked to Ray and we became friends because of playing the Destiny Alpha, actually, I think it was. So amazing. That's how this whole thing started. That's how I met Lee, and it's crazy. So I would go back into Destiny. I might get Logan to play a little bit too, because he's a hardcore gamer now. But I want to try It Takes Two. It's going to be out on Game Pass soon. I have it on PlayStation 4. It's a co-op game that's perfect for that. And Mark, you and I have been talking about, I think we can plug in webcams to PlayStation 5. We can plug it into Xbox to do that as well. So that should be a ton of fun. There's so many games that are just made for it, and we have so many free games on every platform. There's no reason we can't play with people. Rocket League, whatever game people want to play. And I don't know, Fortnite, does that work too? I mean, can you do Fortnite in stream? Because that's your baby, man. You're like the ace gamer.
The tough thing with Fortnite is getting voice chat in there. So for that to work, it would have to be on Xbox, and everyone would have to be basically doing Xbox party chat rather than Fortnite's in-game chat. Okay. So we all have to be on the same platform. Sure. So I'll see if I can do something there. You might just, we'll see what I end up doing. But right now, yeah, like I said, the game plan is to just play as much as I can, as long as I can stay awake, and again, raise some money for kids and join Phoenix Overdrive and do as much as I can.
Well, if it gets really bad, you might see me break out the Rock Band 4, a guitar, microphone, and we'll see how that goes.
But, I love it. That's awesome.
Yeah. So Extra Life, for anybody who doesn't know, it's basically a charity that basically raises money by gaming. And we are doing it through the Phoenix Overdrive Nation for the Children's Miracle Network. Hospitals, I believe there's Gillette Hospital specifically is who they're raising money for. So, but you know what? If you don't donate to us, donate to somebody else. It's great. Mm-hmm. But this is going to be awesome. And last year, that was the last request of Bobby Pauls. He said he wanted us to be involved, and we're going to do our part.
Yep, absolutely. I really wish that I made it to Rome, New York and met Bobby. But, and again, this year I wish I could have gone down, but it's wildly expensive to fly down there from where I am, especially just for a weekend. If next year or the year after or something, I can plan something that apparently in 2 years, it's going to fall on my birthday. So my birthday is this Thursday, November.
That's 4th. Right. I saw Facebook. The only thing it's good for is telling me when people's birthdays are.
And Lee's is the same day, actually. So,
very nice.
So by the time people are listening to this, it's going to be my birthday, and the best present you can do is donate to Extra Life and help some kids. But and that's for me and Lee. So it's like a double whammy of like birthday awesomeness. But apparently, in 2 years, it's going to be on our birthday, and that's going to be intense. So we'll see what happens there.
Yeah, and when I won the contest for the controller, that's exactly what this is going to go to. So at this point, Mark and I have out there. We have our targets. So please support us if you can. If you can't support us, just show up and watch us. It'll be fun.
Yeah, exactly. Tell some friends. Um,
Absolutely. So, Mark, buy, rent, return this week. This is going to be an emulation themed episode. You'll hear throughout us talking about emulation as a topic because Nintendo Switch Online dropped the expansion pack. I'm a sucker. I didn't want to let down my family plan, including Sean Nias and his family. So we're splitting it. So I upgraded. It was like $45 for some reason because I think I had multiple years or whatever. So that's what it's going to be. So and then you got to play some of it too. Um, so essentially, right now we've got 3 Nintendo systems that have emulation through the Nintendo Switch Online service: NES, SNES, and N64.
mhm.
We have played the least amount probably in the N64 because it just launched. But the hard question is, Mark, of these systems on the Nintendo Switch Online, or maybe even if you have the mini classics, because very similar as well,
Mhm.
both emulated, um, what would you buy, rent, or return?
Okay, so when I'm thinking about this, I'm thinking just Nintendo Switch Online because I think the answer is going to be different when you count the classic systems for NES and Super Nintendo. Obviously, we don't have one for N64. I wish we did, but the emulation on those is really, really, really solid. Um, and it comes bundled in with the controllers that you're supposed to use with those systems, and everything just kind of works. So I think those are an unfair advantage. So I'm going to be centering this around specifically Nintendo Switch Online and the offerings that they have there. So my return is a tough one because I love this system and a few games on it. I'm going to say NES for my return because
Really?
I've
Okay.
specifically on Nintendo Switch Online because there are so many options to play. Okay, realistically, the games I go back to for NES Online are Super Mario Brothers and Super Mario 3. Realistically, everything else is it's kind of hard to go back to, right? If you're playing the original Zelda without a guide, you memorized it as a kid or you're a psychopath. If you like it's just there's so many games that have been improved on with the Super Nintendo that it's kind of harder to go back to those ones. So I usually actually have my Game and Watch, my Super Mario Game and Watch, where I can play the original Super Mario Brothers over and over again, pretty much anywhere. So I'm going to return the NES for Nintendo Switch Online. Rent, I'm going to say N64 because so far it's been fun to poke around a little bit. I've only tried 2 of the games. And I don't have the controller yet, and I think that's going to make a big difference. The N64 controls do not translate super well to modern controllers. When we swapped out the C buttons for a C stick, it broke a lot of stuff because a lot of
Did you get the
I
controller?
haven't been able to get it yet.
Okay, yeah,
I
that's going to
haven't.
be a problem for a lot of
I
people.
I added it to my cart the last time it went live. I added it to my cart, and when I went to check out, it was said sold out, and that's the last time I had a chance. Um, I'm determined to get one though because I think that will make these
Oh
games
yeah.
so much more enjoyable. So right now that's my rental because I want to go back. I want to play Ocarina. I want to play Mario 64. Mario Kart I played the hell out of. That's been fun because you don't need those kind of buttons, right? It's just hold in the gas and go. So obviously then I'm left with my buy Super Nintendo. I have Super Nintendo controllers. I love playing with those on the Switch. It's got a great library on there of classic games that I always want to revisit, and that's so far my favorite. That's the one I've easily put the most time in on my Nintendo Switch Online account is Super Nintendo. So that's what I'm keeping around. What about you?
Oh, this is a hard one, Mark, because the NES was such a hallmark of my youth, um, and it's actually the only one of these systems I actually owned. I rented the SNES, and my friends had the N64, but I owned the NES. So this is the hard one. So I will say I will return the N64.
So
And you'll hear about why I will return that in more detail as we talk about our review of it. But to your point, the controller. trying to play that differently, it was an exercise in frustration to remember which did what and how to do it. So, in the games there, we only have 9 games at this point. So it's really hard to say, are we going to get all the classics? Because at this point, I played a lot of the non-classics, and they're not classics. Uh, so I would say that's my return system. I have the least nostalgia for it, and quite honestly, we already got a better version of Mario 64 in the collection as well. So that's a weird thing, right? So then I will go with my rent is actually going to be the NES though, because I played most of those games and I have nostalgia for them, but I typically don't revisit games I already played. So the buy would be the SNES because those are typically sequels to games that were even better.
Yep.
So right, I mean they refined it. They took what was learned in better hardware, all these things, better sound, all these things, with pretty much a controller which was classic at the time and just had incorporated enough new things that made it even better. So I that's where I would stand. So it seems weird because that's like I said, it was the system I rented. I remember renting F-Zero and all these games to play with my friends, and I was like blown away. I remember the first time I saw Final Fantasy. God, I don't remember what the one was. Was it 6, 4? Whatever the weird US name was. And they showed like the parallax scrolling, the sound. I was really blown away by that system. I'm like, it sounds so good compared to the Genesis. I'm like, the audio is so much better, and it was a much more powerful hardware than the Genesis. So at the time, like, yeah. So that's where I stand.
Nice. All right.
Perfect. And just to let you know, the last time they updated the NES games was May 26th.
Oof.
And that might be it.
All
And the
right.
games weren't exactly barn burners. SNES, I think there's still hopes that we'll get some new games, but we'll talk
Yep.
about that more as
Yeah,
we
for sure.
traverse. So let us know, everyone, what you would say for the various systems we have in emulation currently on Nintendo Switch Online. I know there's a lot of thoughts on this, so it'd be great to hear what you have to say.
Yeah. We'll get to a couple of those that people have been sharing, but I want to hear more. So, aside from Nintendo Switch Online, what have you been playing?
Well, Mark, I have been playing Metroid Dread, and I thankfully have a Sherpa in this mission, which is Logan. He beat the game.
Okay.
And it was funny because I talked to our friend Sean, who's on the podcast. He's playing it too.
Mm-hmm.
And we were talking, and we were both in a frustration with this game. We enjoy it, but there are parts we're getting stuck at that just seemed like, really? Really? And I think we harken back to Nintendo game design that is kind of held back to a time frame that unless you played the games and you just like this is your realm, not very intuitive for someone who plays Metroidvania games. Like there's a thing for it. So I've struggled. I'm at Kraid right now, but I got stuck very early in the game because there was a portion where you actually had to destroy a block, but the landscape, everything else in the map and everything where it looked did not look like blocks or landscape you could destroy. So I'm going back and forth. I'm shooting everything. And I'm like, what's going on? And it says, yeah, I got stuck there too. And I found out a lot of people are getting stuck at that very same spot. It's very early on in the game when you get to a first like transport. I'm like, so it's frustrating. I spent like 2 hours doing nothing but trying to figure it out. That's not fun. And it's like, everybody's like, oh, that's what the purpose. I'm like, no, because I was just playing a game today, Shadow Complex. Because Logan, that's going to be a future topic podcast that Logan and I do, old new, and I love Shadow Complex. It's a Metroidvania, love it. I'm just absorbing that game again. So I'm a little frustrated, but I'm enjoying it. I'm at Kraid. It's a little difficult. I'm going to get better, Mark. I'm going to get better. I'm going to get good. But the problem is I've been a vagabond of games lately. I'm just not sticking with one game, which then hurts the ability to get good, right?
Especially for Metroid, because there are so many, especially as you progress, there's so many button combinations and hold in this plus this to shoot this, and then hold in this plus this to aim this certain way and shoot this other weapon in this variant kind of form. The button combinations can be almost fighting game-esque in their complexity, and to remember like, okay, does this one shoot this or does this one shoot that? And it is kind of it can be a little bit of a game of memorization and oops, I didn't mean to shoot that, and oh shoot, I'm dead now, so I got to retry that with the right combo.
Yeah, and it's fun because I have the Procons that are a third party. I like them a lot. They're really
Right.
cool. The only thing they don't have is the NFC for the Amiibo, but they have like triggers underneath that you can actually reprogram. So I got those to reprogram for basically the aim and the
Right.
missile, which is
Cool.
awesome. So it's really easy to keep everything kind of clear. But I was cheating and I was using the Amiibo to refill your health and they don't focus. That's like crap. I'm screwed. Let me get the Pro Controller out again. Let's do this. And it was just nonsense. But I'm like, I'm having a good time with the game. I mean, the game is beautiful. It runs great. Although the load times suck, and then the cutscenes when it's load, it's like Logan and I are talking. I'm like, why do they look so low res versus when you're playing? I'm like, that seems like the easiest thing they could have made like 1080p is like just Samus hanging out, riding in a transport, and it chugged. I'm like, why is this so bad? So I want the next Switch to have an SSD because I'm spoiled
Yeah.
with the Xbox Series S and PlayStation 5. I want no load times, but yeah, it's been a lot of fun. So I don't know, Mark, if I'm at Kraid. And Logan says like one of the hardest bosses. Funny, which I'm like, really? It's early on. That's one of the hardest bosses.
Mm.
But he says it has a long like second stage. So I'm like, I'm
Yeah.
not sure how far I am in the game, but I'm having a good time.
Yeah, I mean, stick with it. That is a tough boss because it is so early on, but it also teaches you a lot of the boss mechanics.
Sure.
So once you master that one, that some of the other bosses you're like, okay, I know what this game is trying to do with boss levels. So now I know how to approach it. You know what I mean? Where this one they're teaching you that like, oh, you can't blast at this point, or you can't do this at that point. You know, it's teaching you the design of the game kind of thing. So you can go into other bosses with that knowledge after you finish it. Um, I was playing this as well. I finished it. It took me total clear time. Now, the total clear time doesn't count like how many
Yes, right.
times you died
Yeah.
or like pause screens or that kind of stuff. So my total clear time was 8 hours and 47 minutes. Um, and I know I've clocked in. Well, I could look it up, but I think it's a little over 10 hours. So I definitely put in more time than just the clear time. I'm quickly going to look up. It's not on my. Oh wait, there it is. There it is. Played for 10 hours or more on my Switch. There. I loved this. This was like exactly what I was hoping for. I love Metroidvanias and I love the Metroid series. I've played at least all the mainline ones and the Prime games, and this was such a perfect continuation on from the Fusion storyline. And I just got so much out of this game. And I, to your point of even the cutscenes being a little long, but like every single time I got to look at Samus just like riding in an elevator or something, I was just like, man, she's a badass. Just like the way she's like sitting there, like holding her gun, or just kind of like just standing like a badass. I was just taking screenshots all over the place, and the evidence is on my Twitter account of like this game is just gorgeous, and I love it. Now, some of those games I did run through some software on my iPad called Pixelmator Photo, and they have a machine learning. Basically, it does like a photo resolution bump using AI and machine learning. So I was able to kind of up the resolution or get rid of some of the jaggies using
Mm-hmm.
that software, and the
Sure.
screenshots look better. I didn't do anything else to clean up the screenshots, so the game looks that good. It's just the Switch isn't outputting the higher resolution graphics, like you said. But so far, yeah, for me, this is like game of the year territory. Like I freaking loved every second of this game, and I haven't started hard mode yet, but I'm tempted to. And I got stuck at some of the bosses; they were super tough. The last boss, especially, like I died so many times, but the last time I did it, once I finally got it, I think I might have been hit once. Like it was just one of those things where
Yep.
like it just clicked, and I was like, I'm Samus. I am the most badass bounty hunter in the galaxy, and I'm gonna show you what that means right now. And it's like you're not gonna touch me. You know, like you're not gonna see me coming. I'm John Cena right now. Like just get ready to get blasted. So like it was, I love this game, man. I really did. It's so good.
Yeah, and pro tip, if you're ever like dying a lot, just step away from the game.
Mm-hmm.
It's like the only thing I've ever learned about gaming
Yep.
is you will just be like destroying yourself, having a bad time, come back,
Yep.
and apparently you're like 50% better at that point. I don't know what it is. It's the
100%.
magic.
Yeah.
So
There's something like, yeah, you're like, it's gotta have, it must have something to do with like, um, did you ever play like a puzzle game? I know people had this with like Tetris or something where your
mhm.
brain kind of plays it back in your, when you're kind of resting or something like that. I think our brains do that where it's like kind of absorbing that muscle memory or building that muscle memory or something like that. So I did that several times with this game where I even put it down for like 24 hours and just stepped away, just had to wait for a second. And then I came back and it was like, boom, I did it. I like cleared through that boss. I figured out the puzzle. I figured out which way to go. And every single time it was so satisfying, but it took me a little bit. Like we said last time with Joey, I was taking my time with this. Like he had to play it for a review, but I was kind of, just enjoying every second of it. But I did take my time with it. But I'm super happy to have finished it now, and just like I said, I enjoyed every second.
Yeah, and Mark, you got the. So this is going to be a fun part. We talk about regrets. I have a few. You got the Nintendo Switch OLED, and
Yes.
I am getting it Friday. So the problem with video is it will never look as good as the thing you're holding because our screens are, and
Yep.
the YouTube is going to be whatever you're watching on versus what you're seeing. So
Yeah.
yeah, so you owned a launch Switch, correct? And that's what
Day
I have
one.
as well.
Yep.
Yeah, yeah, that was my. I'm like, I can get $220 for it if I trade it in cash, and it's
Yep.
$350. I'm like, and I'm hearing rumors now where you may not even get a Switch upgrade or sequel until 2024. I'm like, well, I'd rather have a better system than no system at all, or if it dies on me. So I mean, it's a no-brainer. So I'm in that boat. I haven't got it. I'm going to get it on Friday. But so you've had it.
Yep.
So it's got better battery life,
Mm-hmm.
double the memory,
Yep.
bigger screen, OLED, and a better kickstand. Is there anything I'm missing?
No.
Okay.
No. It's so
Oh,
far,
better dock. Better dock
and
too. Yeah.
yeah, a new redesigned dock, and the dock's pretty. The kickstand's really nice. It's not flimsy anymore. It can actually function as a kickstand.
It's like
Uh,
the Surface
it is,
stand,
yeah,
which is great.
exactly.
Yeah.
And I went with the white model, so I have the nice shiny white Joy Cons. RIP to my
The
gray ones.
best version, Mark. The best version.
Yeah,
People get the red and
it's
blue. It's
new,
like,
right?
come
It's
on,
new,
come on, stand out.
and so I just saw one in stock at my local
Ooh,
Best Buy,
what?
and yeah, and that's
Canada.
the decision.
People, guys, if you run out of systems, go up to Canada. They got the hookup. Markle.
That's
Yeah.
basically it. So I literally walked in Best Buy for a webcam for this coming weekend, and this was in stock, and I just said, you know what, like I can get a decent amount. You said $220. You expect to get for your OG Switch?
Yeah, because it was a three. I mean, in the U.S., it's $300 for the original Switch. It's $350 for the OLED.
Okay.
It's what, $450 in Canada?
450
Okay.
for the OLED. Yeah.
Okay.
So I just got $325 for my
Perfect.
OG original Switch. No questions asked, just like literally $325 in my pocket. The day I posted it, like within a couple of hours, I had sold that system and made that money back. So, doing a quick
Mark,
conversion.
Did you post that on your OnlyFans page first to auction it off?
Yes, and I signed it. You don't want to know what I used as a pen.
Don't lick it, folks. Do not lick that system.
No, it was the guy was super pumped. He was like,
Okay.
you set it for a great price. I didn't even, like
Hmm?
I saw people setting them for like 400, 350, whatever. And I was just like, you know what? I know when you set something for those prices, people are going to like barter you down kind of thing. I got one super low ball offer that was like 250. I was like, come on, you're nuts. And then this guy like messaged me and he was like, don't even want to argue with the price. Just like, where can I meet you? So I was like, set up a little meeting place. At the mall that I bought this one at. And and just kind of like went up, met him. Here you go. Thanks. Cool. That was it. It was very, very seamless. So I'm super happy. I mean, it's like you said, new system, bigger screen, and the bigger screen is something I'm really enjoying. By default, there's a vivid mode.
Okay.
So the colors are very bright, but it's almost off-puttingly vivid.
Mhm.
Like I think they could tone it down a tiny bit, and I wish there was that kind of granularity like you have with a TV, that you can set like contrast and saturation and all that kind of stuff. Because it seems like something's just dialed up a tiny bit too much. And my brother said the same thing when he looked at it. So I might set that just as standard, but for right now, I'm like, oh, it's an OLED, it's vivid, blah blah blah, whatever. So I'm really enjoying it. I still, for the most part, I've been playing stuff docked, so I'm not really enjoying the. I did play some Luigi's Mansion over the weekend. My wife was running into the mall, and I just said, you know what, Finn and I are gonna chill in the car. I put on some videos for him on my phone in the back seat, and I like propped my phone up in the headrest behind me, and I played Luigi's Mansion on my new Switch, and it's fun. It's good, but I'm really happy with the purchase, and like I said, I made so much money on my original Switch that it didn't cost me that much for the upgrade, so it was kind of a no brainer after 4 years of enjoying the Switch.
Absolutely. I mean, it's been four and a half years. So we're getting into year 5. And like I said, it's going to be that long. It's like, okay, my consoles, I typically do something after 4 to 5 years anyways, because I'm like usually a better version. So makes the most sense. So I'm like at this point, plus battery life. I mean, that's a big thing. And if you want to carry around a battery pack, and we're going to be traveling, and hopefully with Logan driving to Michigan, I will be able to actually play some games.
That's
so excited
fantastic
about that. Yeah. So yeah, I'm excited about this. And OLED is a cool technology. I don't own an OLED TV. I ordered my current TV too early for that. So, but everybody loves it. So I'm excited about this. Plus, if it gets me to play more Switch games, that's a perfect thing because it's my least used console. But you know what? I'm willing to get down because if my Switch isn't dead because my son forgot to dock it, that'll be great.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's good. I think you'll be happy with it. I think,
Sure.
I almost want to go back and play Metroid because I finished Metroid before I got this. So I want to see, everyone was talking about how good it looks, but anyway, I'm happy so far.
Very, very cool. Awesome. So, Mark, I'll hit on a couple things very quickly that I have played. Guardians of the Galaxy, got this from GameFly. I'm about 2 hours in, and this game is for me. Oh my goodness, this game is beautiful. I'm playing on PlayStation 5. They have a free upgrade, so basically, if you got the PS4, you get the PS5 version. So I'm doing it. It's wonderful, but this is a game that I really wanted, which is a linear Marvel game, the Guardians of the Galaxy. Basically, it's a different take, but it's more like the comic book versions of the characters. It looks like what they look like in the comic books versus the movies. The characters, Rocket and Groot, I would say, are very similar, but Gamora and Drax are, I would say, better characters than they are in the movies. Much more finesse, a little bit more to them. Drax, I always felt, was a little one note in the movie versus this one is a little bit different. He's not like the naive, oh my goodness, I don't know what's going on, I'm Drax. No, this one's a little bit more, he doesn't trust everyone. He's not, it's just different. I really enjoy it. But the cool part about this game is you're set with the team. You've been with them for years. And actually, Drax and Gamora are late adds to the team. So you and Rocket and Groot have established a relationship, which is pretty cool. But the game actually kicks off. You get to see Peter with his mom and get to a little bit with a relationship, which is great. Wow. You're in like Peter's teenage bedroom. He's a big fan of hardcore metal and things like that. And his favorite band is Star-Lord. And he has a Star-Lord jacket. And you look around his room and you see all of this like late 80s, early 90s, like memorabilia. And it is totally hilarious. Like his mom steps on a toy. She hands it back to you. What is it, Mark? It's Chewbacca. Because it's a Marvel property and Disney and everything. Playing well. It's so fun. You walk around the room, you get to enjoy it, but you get to meet your mom. And she's like this cool mom with bad band hair from the 80s. She likes rock and roll. and it's just fun. You can play in the music, and it's got a great soundtrack too. You can
Yeah.
adjust it and select the tracks you want. But then you basically wake up from this dream you've been having, and you go on a mission. You're there to the first mission. No spoilers. You're basically there to get a monster, and you guys are there. It's you and Drax and Rocket are going there, and you're just going on. It's a very linear path. Very cool story, a lot of dialogue like Uncharted, where you're talking and things are happening and the story is going along there versus cutscenes, which is kind of nice. Same thing as you're in the Milano, you're having basically conversations with people and you're finding things and you can get upgrades. But it's your Star Lord. That is the main character of the game. But what they do is you can control your teammates by using them as basically attacks. So you hold down one button and then you can choose their attack. It makes it a lot of fun. But also, as you're traversing and going through the missions, like if there's a gap, you can tell Groot make a bridge for you to go across. So, but it's Peter Quill's a lot of fun to play as a character. He's kind of underpowered compared to the other ones, but I heard that improves over time. But he has rocket boots, which is fun for traversal. You've got your blasters, which then you can upgrade. They basically have like a reload, like an active reload, like in Gears of War, where you get more power up from doing that. So I'm really enjoying the game. It's beautiful. It's fun. It's a much more of a narrative story than Avengers is currently, much more narrative than Spider-Man is. So I think from a third-party available Marvel game on every system, I don't know. I think this is awesome. This is a surprise. I'm really enjoying it.
It's great to hear.
I just want to keep playing more of it because it's just engaging, and I think that's what's great. And apparently, there's a lot of cameos that are surprises. A lot of things in the game are part of the comic books that you can research too. So it's not like exactly just all original stuff, but it's
Okay.
harking back to the actual source material. So check out Guardians of the Galaxy if you find it. I mean, I think if you're nervous about this game, I'm assuming over Black Friday, those probably like 40, $30,
Yeah,
but it's
probably.
worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. That's great to hear. And I did almost pick this up a couple of times, but I've been playing some other stuff that's distracted me and then dropped the money on the new Switch. So I haven't picked this up yet. I might wait. I might get bored and grab it. But it's great to hear so many positive things about it.
Yeah, this one was like really people were like, I don't think I want this game. I don't think it's going to be good. And then the Metacritic's like 82%.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, some people don't like it, but I mean, it's got a lot of dialogue. So if you don't like a lot of talky and you want more shooty, you might be disappointed.
Excellent. Excellent. Um, anything else you've been playing before I'm going to jump into a kind of a big one that I've been playing?
Oh, sure. Just really quick, Far Cry 6. I'm playing more of that game. That is a long game, Mark. I'm hearing like
Yeah.
it's a 40 to 50 hour game. I'm very early in the game. I've got my first companion, Guapo, the alligator. We're taking down checkpoints. There's a lot more to this game that I've really even gotten into. I'm excited about what I've heard. When you check out certain checkpoints, you get cool weapons. There really is no upgrade path. It's all about your weapons this time
Okay.
and your gear. So there's no like upgrading like you level 25. No, it's do you have this type of gear? And if you get the checkpoints, you get these cool weapons. I've heard this awesome sniper shotgun that's also silenced, Mark, which makes no sense.
None of that makes any sense.
But apparently it's like god level and it's awesome. I'm
I
like,
love it.
okay, I'm down for this fun. I'm down to clown. And I play Far Cry games for a long time because that's the type of game they are. There's so much to do
Yeah.
and it's ridiculous. And yes, it's over the top. And yes, it's the tone is weird. It's like one time I'm taking on a dictator who does horrible things, but the next time I'm like sicking my uh, gator with a tracksuit on people. You got to be okay with that. I'm like, you know what? It's a video game. It's not. It's
100%.
not a documentary that I would find on like National Geographic.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. No, I've been hearing some mixed things about that game, but I'm glad you've been enjoying it. I've always enjoyed the Far Cry games, like you said, for what they are, which is video game ass video games. But they also sometimes kind of had at least a bit of a message to them. So
Yeah,
it's I think as a developer really hard to find the right balance, especially in the real world. Things can switch and change so easily. So 3, 4, 5 years ago, when they start developing this game, the political landscape and the world could be a very different place than when it's released. So you also have to find that kind of balance of like, this game is not hiding the fact that it's Cuba very well.
No, no.
So, even though they don't say that it's Cuba in the game, like it's pretty much like, here it is, and we've changed the name slightly. But it's got to be a tough balance to have a bit of a political message, but also have an attack alligator with a gold tooth and a tracksuit and a gun that shoots Macarena CDs. Like, that's got to be tough for any developer. And I find Far Cry usually, for the most part, hits a really good balance there. So it's I'm not surprised by the mixed feelings for this one, but I'm happy to hear that you're enjoying it and you want to stick with it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a game I will continue to play. It's right now is a busy season, and I'm going to probably be close to being done with my games with Halo coming out. That's probably the last big game with Forza. We'll probably talk about our lens on in the next couple episodes. We'll probably talk about like our as we're getting close to the end of the year, and we're going to probably cut off our games at the end of the year as we talked about this. So January we'll talk about our game of the year. But I mean, wow, 2021 has been an interesting year, but a lot of good games. So kudos to everyone that's making these games and having fun with them. And I always appreciate when I have something fun to sneak my to put my teeth in. So, but Mark, I've talked a lot. So I saw your video today. And first, I thought it was home video of you like doing extreme sports, but then I was wrong.
Funny. Well, okay. First off, I'm gonna say I picked up Mario Party Superstars. I've only played one board so far, but the mini games are for the most part hits, and I'm loving this, and I can't wait to play more. That's all I'll say this week. I'm going to be playing more for Extra Life, so tune in, and I'll be talking more about that game as I play it for Extra Life. So if you want to hear more, wait till next episode, or more importantly, tune into Extra Life stuff. So the game that you're talking about, I did post a couple of videos. Go on my Twitter if you want to check those out. Riders Republic. I was lucky enough to get a code from our friends at Ubisoft Canada. Thank you so much to them. Always appreciate the support. And I was kind of like iffy when I first saw this game. I was like, is it going to be one of those games that like tries too hard to be like extreme or whatever? And the more I saw of this game, it was like, oh no, this actually looks really fun. It looks really ridiculous. And it looks like a Tony Hawk game, but with like every other sport you could think of. And I don't like, I love these type of games. Like I love Tony Hawk. I love snowboarding games. Like, man, I really hope like 1080 snowboarding or even snowboard kids or whatever comes to the N64 online. Like those are my jam 100%. And I used to do like trick skiing and stuff. And it was kind of funny. My wife was watching me play this, and it was not like the videos that I posted, which were like me doing cool shit. This one was like, so when I first got my trick skis, when I first learned how to do a front flip, I landed one like perfectly. It was awesome. And then the next time I tried it, it was on this like tabletop jump, and I did not rotate all the way and landed basically. So my skis like stuck into the snow, and I just like thunk landed on my butt, and like the skis were like stuck in. So I had to like, it was just a mess. And of course, more people were watching when I failed than when I actually landed the damn front flip. So in this game, I hit a jump, and it ended up, I thought it was going to be like a bigger fall, and it ended up being like this low kind of tabletop jump. And I basically did the exact same thing that I did in real life. And I was like, damn, tabletops always get me. And my wife was sitting there, and she like, knew the front flip story, and she was just like shaking her head like,
I married you.
How do you do this kind of stuff? Like even in a video game, like you still manage to fail spectacularly. And yeah, so that's it, like a little bit of real world sneaking into the games and games sneaking into the real world. But yeah, so the videos I posted, yeah, one is trick skiing and going down this like crazy mountain and doing a bunch of like crazy spins and tricks and stuff. And the other clip that I posted is a jet powered wingsuit kind of thing that I'm like flying through first person. I love the first person in this. It's so good when you're zipping through trees like that. And it's just like free running. so there are events in this game, but there's also just like you can just go and just pick a place on the map and just like I'm gonna fly there, or I'm gonna go to the top of the mountain and ski down, or I'm going to take a bike down this mountain, or I'm going to just walk down for some reason, or I found some skis that are actually just sticks. You just put sticks on your feet and you just ski down the mountain, and
Can you just go to the? Can you just go to like the loft and just have hot cocoa?
You can there's like a hangout place that you can just like get new outfits or just like hang out and see everyone, and it's like real world. So there are so many people playing, and you see the little avatars, and you can't really like mess people up, which is kind of cool because like I should have messed up a race real bad. Real bad. Like it would have, if there was collisions in this game, like it would have been I'm dead, the person's dead, there's some just blood everywhere. Like
this is like Jackass going right, I guess.
Yes,
right,
100%.
In a way. Yeah.
So like there is a little bit of that like Jackass, like super extreme kind of like attitude in this game, like a little bit, but like it's not in your face annoying kind of thing. Like I kind of get a kick out of it, but the amount of times in this game. So okay, I've been talking a lot because I'm super excited about this, but like Riders Republic basically is just like all those kind of extreme sports. Like if you played steep, there's snowboarding stuff. So snowboarding, wingsuit, jetpack, biking, and like skiing, like I said, are like the kind of the main avenues. And there's different types of those. There's like precision biking, trick biking, downhill races, there's all that stuff. And you're just like on this massive map, and you go from event to event, but you can also explore. And you're just kind of trying to build up your credibility and do bigger races and get into like X Games and Red Bull Cups and this and that, whatever, and kind of prove yourself on the mountain. So in this little, they have it set up as like a Riders Republic. That's like the town or the village or the commune or whatever that you're kind of like in, of all these like extreme racers and stuff in the middle of all these national parks. So you can like kind of visit like real world ish locations that are kind of scattered throughout, and you'll learn things along the way by visiting like POIs and like points of interest kind of thing. It's spectacularly fun is all I can really say. Like when I first fired it up, the character creation tool is a bit like basic, and they don't look super like, there's nothing that screamed like, oh, this is next gen kind of thing to me. But once you get past that, everything just opens up, and the more things you get, like you get your bike and then your snowboard, but then you start to unlock the really cool things like a ski-doo to like quick travel like across the snow and stuff, and then like the jetpack and whatever else. And it's just like there's so many times in this game that I've just been either grinning ear to ear or like out loud to myself being like, yes, or just laughing in pure like, this is the stupidest thing I've ever done in a video game. How can I go from like a wingsuit to a bike to skis back to the wingsuit in one race? And it's just joy, like pure joy on my TV. That's the only way I can describe it. So I love it. I absolutely like. I'm probably rambling at this point because I love this damn game so much.
No. That's good. The only negative I heard was like sometimes it tries to be too hard to be like, dude, let's do things cool, and it's like, okay, that's annoying, but it's not taking away from like why you play the game.
Exactly.
So
and those points. And depending on the type of person you are, that can get either super annoying, or for me, it's just kind of like, okay, I see what they were trying there. And like, most likely if you lived in a place like this, where it was like a whole bunch of like X gamers, like all living in a commune on a mountain, it's probably kind of close.
Well,
you get like bands of roaming people who are like really hardcore. And then you'd get kind of like, everyone else that was just kind of like, oh man, those guys are crazy, but they do pull off some pretty cool shit. If you can get past that part, this game is just, like I said, just pure joy on your screen. It's fantastic.
I guess my question is, Mark, did they bring back Dan Cortese and MTV Sports?
Not not that I've seen so far. No.
Okay, because
Um,
that's like the realm of the
yeah.
that and that's what games used to be. I mean, we used to have like the PlayStation era of like games in N64 or the original Xbox. It was like wakeboarding HD and BMX Triple X, and wow, we've just kind of lost that era. So it's nice to have options that aren't horrible, but still lean into a little bit dudism. But that's okay.
Mhm.
Have fun.
Yeah, and like I said, this one does go into like real world events. So you'll see Red
Yeah,
Bull sponsored things. You'll see them shout out like X Games events and that kind of stuff. Like there is some real world tie-in, but then it's all centered around this like fantastical, like I said, commune in the middle of all of these national parks, and you can go up like real world mountains, and the map is insanely big. Like with a jet suit on, you're still taking a long time. I haven't even flown end edge to edge of the map, and I'm still fairly early in this game. It just came out last week. Like I said, we did get the code from Ubisoft, but they recommended waiting until actual launch day, so the
sure.
servers were full. So I've only had as basically as about as much time as anyone else who bought this day one has had with the actual finished game. So while this is not a final review, and I'm hoping that I'll have that by the next time we record, um, my early review in progress of playing as many hours as I could since Thursday, Friday, whenever it went live, and having a sick child in there and being a little under the weather myself, and then having Halloween. I've still managed to put several hours into this because I just can't put the damn thing down. And every time, like even if it's like I have 5 minutes, I'm like I just want to jump in and either explore or do a quick race. And my wife will come back into the room and she'll be just like, "This again?" And I'll be just like, "Oh yeah, but watch this, watch this. I found a new mountain." And so it's just that kind of thing. Or it's just I don't know, man. I can't get enough. I love it. It's so good. And I think it's getting overshadowed by all
Oh,
the other stuff that's out with Dread and just like even Far Cry. I think is close and just like Guardians of the Galaxy. I think I think I'm worried that this is the fall game. There's usually one that gets overshadowed, and I'm kind of worried that this is it. So if you're listening and like you like any of those kind of games, um, just do yourself a favor and get this. Like it's so good.
it's so
If you like
dumb
that,
that they didn't
yeah,
release this like in the summer or something like that. It's
yeah,
just weird that they could have picked a different window for this game because to your point, this is the type of game that could use some breath of like
mhm,
and I think we're getting a point. Unfortunately, it's like when is a good time because it's like they're parsing
that's
games,
it.
but the summer typically is a good time. So
This
like
would have
it's
been a really
maybe
cool summer
September.
launch. Yeah, this would have
Yeah,
been a really cool launch, and it's great now because it is kind of a transition time like you'd see in the game because like right now it's fall so you can still go out and do some like bike stuff, but you're also starting to think about winter sports if you're in a place like I am where like this is when like people are looking into like, okay, it's November, I'm ready to kind of start thinking about skiing, snowboarding, whatever. So there's like thematically it's a good time to launch this game, but I wish it kind of had its own window of like, let's just kind of focus
January
on this and
maybe.
like, yeah, maybe, I don't know. It's anyway, I am scared it's going to get overlooked, but like for my 2 cents, it's one hell of a game, man. It's just it's so big. I still can't believe the scope. And if you watch the videos I posted on Twitter, it's like, how is this the same game? And there are races that run through like you start off on your bike and then it just seamlessly transitions. Like there'll be like a little kind of a almost like your character glitches or something like that in the Matrix, and then you're in your wingsuit, and then suddenly you're in whatever, like your snowboard gear, and it just it goes through so much different like situational kind of things, and like and you can see while you're going, either other races or NPCs or something like kind of crossing your path and you think you're going to crash, but you either go through or they jump over you or whatever. Like, this is a living, breathing world. Like, there's always stuff going on in every corner. It's wild. It's impressive.
Well, the good news is, Mark, there's not really much competing with it in that category. So I think it will find an audience, and it's getting well reviewed. So I think this is not an instance where it'll be like the next shooter that gets overlooked. This is a game that can stand alone, and word of mouth is going to help this game.
And that's like, so, and one of my problems might be I haven't looked at any reviews for this because I want it to, once I knew I was getting the code, I want it to kind of save that. And I don't like looking up other reviews to kind of taint how I'm thinking of a game going in if I'm going in to review it like this. So part of this might be on me where I'm like, oh, this game's getting overlooked, but like really I've kind of shut myself off while I'm playing it for review. So I could be completely wrong, and this could be like the best-selling game of the fall or something. Like I do kind of shut myself off like that. So, but I really hope it like gets the attention it deserves because it is so much fun.
Yeah, the only negatives heard is that like dude thing, but beyond that, the gameplay and everything else seems to be doing very well. So guys, check it out. It's the only game of its type right now. So definitely check it out. Ubisoft Play, I think if you have that service, you can get it for free. And Ubisoft is typically good for giving discounts on Black Friday, so check it out there too. So definitely support them if you like these extreme sports. So Mark, we both played a bunch of NSO stuff, but I think maybe we should talk about at the back end because we're going to talk about emulation.
Yeah, I think so.
So we've got one news story though this week, which I thought was a ton of fun when I heard about this. I'm like, you know what? Nickelodeon did a Smash Brothers type game, and people seem to be like over the moon for that game. I'm like, you know what? Is it wrong that we haven't had these type of brawlers for other like universes of characters and things like that? PlayStation tried it, didn't work well. Xbox has not tried that yet, but apparently Warner Brothers is trying that, Mark. And this really engages me because Warner Brothers, when you think about their universes of characters, it's pretty impressive. And apparently they are creating a game called Multiversus. It's a brawler. NetherRealms, who makes Mortal Kombat and Injustice, are apparently behind this studio project. And we're going to get characters from all of the Warner Brothers universes. So we're talking about Fred Flintstone, Johnny Bravo, Gandalf, Shaggy, Batman, Mad Max. Batman. Mark, it opens up the door to just like think of like the Lego series. You know, we had all of those Warner Brothers series in that. Doctor Who is part of HBO Max. All of these different characters, and why not? Yeah, they're probably not going to be as good as Smash Brothers because Sakurai, he is basically, I think he's like Dorian Gray, where if he stops making Smash games, he'll die. You'll find out he's like a 300-year-old man.
Yeah, 100%. He will basically almost kill himself. I'm fairly certain that man is just some sort of immortal demigod or something because the amount of detail and balance that he will put into Smash Brothers games is just crazy. But and I have heard that from the Cartoon Network or whatever it is, that game. Like I heard there are some balance issues, and like people have been leaning towards a couple of certain characters that seem a little OP. So like, yeah, maybe the balance patch will work that out. But like, it still doesn't take away from the fact that like some of these games can be really fun and should be really fun. And this one, like, give me Johnny Bravo versus Batman. 100%.
Courage the Cowardly Dog. We could have, there's so many characters from Cartoon Network now, Warner Brothers. They own so much. It could be so much fun. And it's not like this is a bad fighting game developer. This is NetherRealms.
Yeah.
They make some of the best fighting games ever. So I'm like, that's one of the few studios could see do this. I remember when PlayStation did PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale, and it's like they try to do it. It didn't work very well. They tried to do something a little bit different, but I'm like, I think the reception of the Nickelodeon game, and it's not great, but it's good.
Yeah.
And that's enough for some
with
people just to have a good time.
And that's what I mean with the Nickelodeon game. I said Cartoon Network before, but with the Nickelodeon game, with a couple of balance patches as people discover
Yeah.
things and it's getting reviews and all that kind of stuff, they could release a couple of patches that right now, if the game is a 7, in a couple of years with some DLC and a couple of really good balance patches, that game could be an 8 or a 9. Like it could just keep iterating, and there's no like NetherRealm behind this kind of game could release a 9 from the get go. Like it's amazing. So I'm very excited. The pictures I've seen so far, like if that's a real leak from from a reputable source, which it kind of seems to be, like this game looks, the art style looks a little bit more Fortnite than NetherRealm esque,
Oh,
Mortal
sure.
Kombat or Injustice or something like
Hmm.
that. It's more of the cartoony stuff. So when you're thinking Batman, do not think like Arkham Knight. Think
The
animated
animated series
Batman or
Justice League.
Batman from Fortnite or that kind of
Yeah.
thing. Yeah. So
Yeah.
um, it's everyone's going to fit into that art style, and it's this has a potential to be just a ton of fun.
Absolutely. And they could dig deep because they have all of the HBO characters. So Tony Soprano may show up. Who
Mhm.
knows? Just crazy things that could happen. And I love this because we love our characters to be brought in other mediums and just have a good time. And I think as long as you're not like too beholden to like, oh, that's not how Gandalf would act. I'm like, just have a good time. Just have a good
That's it,
time.
because it's not
Yeah.
going to make sense when Tom and Jerry beats the crap out of Batman. Like,
Exactly. Power level's a little bit off. But we
no,
already had the Lego Dimensions, right? And WU
yeah,
is big behind that. Now, we people really love that game, but you had to buy all those toys.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. No, there's a lot of potential here for sure. With the roster, the gameplay, there's just everything. Like this could come together to be an absolutely perfect storm. Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah. And you can, if the console holders actually play along with this game, you could get PlayStation or Xbox characters, which would be a ton of fun too. So we'll see. I mean, maybe, depending on what happens, but this
Soul
could be really cool.
Calibur levels of like each console gets its
Oh,
own
that'd be
exclusive
fantastic.
character, right? Like that. A lot of again, I get a lot of potential there to just be a ton of fun. Like, get the Nintendo version, or you're getting the Xbox or the PlayStation for like it. Man, yeah, I'm excited. I hope this is
I'm
all real.
guessing, Mark, if anything, if this truly is going to happen, I think we get this at the Game Awards. This is kind of an
Good
announcement, and
call.
this could be an awesome announcement. So there we go, folks. So
Good
let
call.
us know if you're into this. Who would you love to see in the Warner Brothers universe of characters? They've got, maybe we get Dune characters. That'd be crazy and weird. The sandworm comes out and eats somebody. That'd be fantastic.
Hey, the Dune characters are in Fortnite right now. If
Oh,
you
there you
want
go.
your
Even
fix
better.
of video game Dune,
Who
so
doesn't want
hop in,
video game Dune? Well,
hop in,
fun
get
fact,
some
Mark.
Fortnite fun
Dune
buddies.
was actually the first RTS game on PC.
Hmm,
Yeah,
interesting.
absolutely.
All
It's
right.
crazy. Yeah, so that is it for the news, folks. Just fun news story. But we're going to get into the main event of our bonus round. That's our topic of the show, and that is emulation
Mm-hmm.
and where we stand on emulation in regards to Nintendo Switch Online, people emulating other things, PC, arcade, all those things will be up for debate.
Yeah. So with the launch of the N64 games and Sega games, although I haven't personally had any time to play the Sega games, um, with the launch of those on Nintendo Switch Online, I thought it would be a good time to kind of visit this topic, or at least look at this topic, share some of our thoughts about mainly like what you've thought so far about the new games that have been added, how the emulation's holding up, how they play on a modern console. We kind of alluded to that earlier in the show of N64 games don't always translate well, because realistically with an N64 you had A, B, LR, and then four C buttons that, if you didn't want to use those for camera, could be action buttons, which causes a whole lot of problems for modern controllers, which have, the 4 face buttons, and that's it. So you're missing 2 essentially from the N64 controller. So we can jump into other types of emulation and stuff if you want to, but for me, I really wanted to visit this from like how are they doing so far? We heard a lot of crap being thrown when they announced the pricing for the online expansion for Nintendo Switch. We've heard since they launched a lot of negative stuff from people who are doing comparisons from an actual N64 or PC emulators, or like you said, the Mario All Star Collection. So yeah, basically, first off, have you been playing any of these expanded games? What have you been playing?
Sure. So, peer pressure and a funding alignment have led me to the Nintendo Switch Online Expansion Pack. So this offers N64 and Genesis games into the existing Nintendo Switch Online, which is NES and SNES. So long story short, there are 9 N64 games and I believe 16 Genesis games at this point. I will just rattle these off, Mark. So on the N64 side, I played Winback, Sin and Punishment, and Star Fox 64. On the Genesis side, I played Musha, Ristar, Shinobi 3, Return of the Ninja, Master, and Contra Hard Core.
Right.
I have not played many of these very long, is the best way I could say. I just wanted to dip my toe in to each of them. I will say I tried to play these all on Pro Controller.
Okay.
And the service does show, if you hit the buttons the right way, it will show you where the buttons map to a certain extent.
Mm-hmm.
But if you go into the game, you're like, okay, what are actually the controls of this game? And that's where things start going awry. So on the N64 version, I started with Winback. Winback is a weird, like, third-person shooter game. It's not a first party. I've never experienced this game. It uses a bit of like analog stick for directional pointing, but it has some auto targeting as well. But you have Gears of War, like you're hiding behind cover. It's a very weird game, and it doesn't play very well. It looks pretty good. I mean, considering it's a polygonal 64-bit game,
Mm-hmm.
but it was just weird. It took me forever, and I felt like it was just unintuitive to understand based on the controller you were using, really how the controls map. It shows you how you can do it on the Joy-Cons,
Mm-hmm.
but once again, with what you pointed out, the C-stick parts are a little odd. Plus the analog stick, which one you're going to use, because there was only one analog stick with the controller. So it's a mixed bag. And without that N64 controller being widely available, they really probably needed to dig deeper into saying, these are the way you can use your variety of controllers to optimize the performance for you. And Nintendo
Realistically, they
doesn't
should
always do
have
that.
controller mapping.
Absolutely. Which I
Uh,
try to figure it out. I know there's like overall on the Switch, there's controller mapping,
right.
but that's a little bit wonky, right?
Yeah. No, and that's not ideal because then you have to go change it back when you want to play something different.
Mm-hmm.
It's a pain in the ass. Now, the worst thing for me for N64 games or anything else is not even the C stick kind of controls or anything else. It's the position of A and B on the Switch. And
Mm.
it's right there in the card for N64 Online. You can see the controller and it has A and B and then the C buttons there. But you'll notice if you're even mapping A and B to the modern, the Switch controller, doesn't matter, Joy-Cons, Pro-Cons, whatever, A is down where B is, and B is up where Y is. So if you have muscle memory of, let's say, holding in B and pressing A to jump, well, you probably can't simply just hold in Y and press B to jump. You now have to hold in B and kind of claw your hand up to hit A, and they don't allow you to remap that. And that to me and to my wife, who like can usually beat Ocarina of Time in one sitting, um, it's frustrating and it takes a little while. Like I said, for some games, it's fine. For like Super Mario Kart, it doesn't really matter. You quickly learn just to hold in the A button where it is and just go. But for other games, yeah, it's very frustrating, and it's unintuitive how it's mapped out, because it should be, instead of A and B and they're sticking to A and B, it should realistically be Y and B. And instead of B being B, B should be A and Y should be B. That's a sentence that I just had to freaking
Mark,
say.
are you having like a stroke? Because that's what it
Yeah,
sounded
I
like.
wish I was. If someone can follow that train of thought with me, congratulations, you can survive in my squirrel brain. But that is, if you understood that, that is how it should actually act. So it's frustrating that you can't do that kind of easy button remapping right in the Nintendo Switch Online. There have been so many things, even up to very recently with the Castlevania Advance Collection. I didn't like how the buttons were laid out. There's an easy menu to remap everything. You remap the controls for those games, and it plays beautifully. Problem solved. You have to do it once. You don't have to go do it every single time you start it up. You just do it once, and you go in and you play and you have a good time. And it's frustrating for some games.
It's a weird mix because I really I think the Genesis worked really easily because the Genesis doesn't have any like analog sticks.
Right.
It's very simple, played well. I didn't have any problems with the Genesis games, just like the SNES games, NES games. I think they all work well because they're very simplified. Once you make them more complex with analog sticks and different things, it's kind of like the Dreamcast, where the Dreamcast had one analog stick and like weird like buttons to actually do controls. It just gets really complicated at that point. So at that point, I'm like, how's the best way to do this? I don't know. I'm not a guru, but I will say this: I tried several of the N64 games, like Win Back, like I mentioned. Sin and Punishment, a very odd game. It's almost like a corridor shooter where you just control your cursor is shooting things. You can move around. It took me forever to figure out. Oh, you could do this with the D-pad, do different things like that. So very not exactly inviting. And then I got to Star Fox 64, and the animals are taunting me by telling me to do certain things. I'm like, do this and that and this and that. And I'm like, wait, am I pushing down the analog stick to do this? Mark, way too complex for a game that shouldn't be that complex. I'm like, I'm not enjoying myself anymore. It's too. It's they're punishing me.
I know. I want a couple of things, and I hope one. I wish Nintendo would just up the stock of the N64 controller. That would be great if they were just readily available to buy. And don't tie it in like their store. Just put them in freaking Walmart and whatever. Just like have these controllers out there. And if they're not going to, I want companies like PowerA,
8-bit dough.
8-bit dough, all these companies that make
Yep.
great controllers. They make great Super Nintendo controllers, whatever. Start putting them out, and Joy-Con with that N64 layout on the right side.
Didn't we want that? That was like the hope, right?
That was
We
it,
would
right?
get like Joy-Cons that would emulate each controller.
That'd be fantastic, because I think even in handheld mode that we need an option, and not everyone's going to go out and buy the OLED with a good kickstand. So you need something that you can just play in handheld mode, just on the go, and still
Yeah.
enjoy Star Fox 64. So before we keep ranting, I did put this out on Twitter and our Discord. I said, what do you think about the N64 emulation in Nintendo Switch Online so far? Let us know, and we're going to talk about it right now. So on Twitter, I got a response from Pixelrena saying there are valid criticisms, but I personally don't see it as much of a big deal. I'm going to pretty much agree with that. I think so far we've been a little negative on the control schemes, and I think that's valid. But like overall, I had a ton of fun playing Mario Kart 64 with my wife. I've been very much enjoying Ocarina of Time so far. They're the only two games that I played. I'll get into. I just played Super Mario 64 on the 3D All Stars collection. not in a rush. But like I said, I've been having a great time, and it's I'm I hope I get the controller, but if I don't, I don't. Um, so anyway, she continued to say, in Wii/Wii U Virtual Console, each N64 game had an emulator tailored specifically for it. On Nintendo Switch Online, there's one catch-all N64 emulator that runs every game and ends up missing a few graphical things. I didn't know that. So thank you very much for sharing that. She said, I don't mind. That's how she kind of finished off. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. I
Mhm.
kind of wish that they put that much effort in. I understand why they didn't. If they think their N64 emulator this time around is good enough for most things, like to me, so far it's been good enough, right? Like there are a few things that I noticed, but not like a breaking the game kind of level for me. Um, I mean, like I said, I'm enjoying things so far. So go to Discord. We got El Capitan Plays, said, not a fan. The controls on the Joy-Con and Pro controller leave a lot to be desired, lag, glitchiness, and not what I would hope it would have been considering third-party options available. So, yeah, the game selection, there have been leaks that there are more games ready to go. Nintendo is known for that slow rollout. So we've got things like Pilot Wings, Wave Race. The day they do Wave Race, I apologize for who I'm going to become on Twitter. I'm just putting that out there right now. I apologize for who I'm going to be that day, but Wave Race is just my jam. Famous Seamus, the most famous Seamus I have ever met in my life, chimed in with, I've never really played the N64 games before, aside from Star Fox 64 on the Wii Virtual Console, so I can't really comment on how they compare to the original versions, but I will say some of the controls are odd, to say the least, especially Sin and Punishment. Todd, you nailed that one. God, the
Yeah.
controls in that just make no sense. So people seem to be kind of agreeing with us. The controls, but here's the thing: how you can't do the controls without the controller. Like modern consoles have just moved on, right? Like we have a C stick instead of all those buttons. You just without tailoring a controller specifically for these systems, you just can't do it. In my opinion, I don't know if you feel differently, but it's
So I will
specialized.
push back, Mark. I'll push back to say this is the pain of Nintendo, right? They say I have to make a controller specifically for a game. That means future iterations will be not as good because you're going to say you have to have a specific controller. You got to buy a $50 controller to play these games. These are old games. And that's where my pushback is because I don't think that controller, the N64 controller, I played it, I thought it was a piece of crap versus what you could do with a thing. I get it, but this is me pushing back to say it's not good. It's if your controls are getting in the way of enjoying the system, that means Nintendo needs to dig deeper and do more, especially considering what they're charging more for. So I would say, Nintendo, do more.
I don't know what else they
Iterate
can
on
do
this.
though.
Oh,
I mean,
Mark, they can do far more. They could do far more. They
how
can
can you
say
do
when you're
more
iterate,
with this controller with a Switch? Let's take
they have more buttons. They can say we can tailor it. Mark, they are making so much money. They can do this. Nintendo has been. Yes, they can.
I don't know
Nintendo
why,
Nintendo loves to spend the least amount to make the most amount.
but I
And
don't know if
Nintendo is
it's
the
an
laziest. Look
easy
what
way.
Xbox does. But look what Xbox does and what they've done to iterate to make their games playable for current audiences. Nintendo says
And
you'll
that
play it
doesn't
because
work.
you're nostalgic.
It doesn't
It,
work though. Xbox does not work for old games. These are controllers that worked at the time, but we've iterated and moved past those designs. And from the rare replay collection, like those controls don't work one to one because you have again N64 games, which the controller
but that's but
was.
that's but they're inheriting Nintendo. They're inheriting Nintendo isms, But
Right.
quite honestly, we've got more buttons. We've got more buttons on modern consoles to do exactly what they did. But Nintendo's
They
saying,
don't
no,
though.
you gotta spend. They do, because the C
They
stick is
don't
you
have
got
more
four.
buttons.
So the C stick, where you've got an analog stick that can do all of the buttons that the C stick could do. You've
Okay,
got
and you can do
four
that on
face
the
buttons.
N64.
You've got 16 buttons. The N64 had like 8, right?
You do know you can use the right control stick
Well,
for
that's what
the
I'm
stick
saying.
button, right?
But they aren't doing it. But they're
Yes,
basically
they are.
saying, well, they're doing a C stick is like A, B is C left and right,
No, no, no.
and the A and B
You
is
can do
like.
that without any thing.
All
You
I
can
say is
do
I'm not defending Nintendo.
yes,
Nintendo has too much money to put the least amount of effort in.
but you're
It's
straight
not
wrong.
good.
If you want to play the ocarina and you want to
I
use the C
tried, Mark.
stick,
I tried it, and I tried Star
you
Fox.
can use the
Star
right
Fox
analog
was
stick.
a hot mess. Star Fox was a hot mess with those buttons. I'm like, you have to do up and down and do this left. And I'm like, okay, this is dumb. This is an old game. It's not that complex, and it was it was like juggling cats with oven mitts. It's not complex. It's not sophisticated. It's a horrible design console. And Nintendo, once they design the controller around games and they move on, they're going to have this. They're going to have this problem. They're going to have this problem with the Joy Cons having IR and HD. They're going to have problems because that's the problem with it. Like, and I don't know if that's the best thing for games because most of their games do best when they just are simplified and are less complex than using
Now
like these complex control schemes.
you're coming after Sony too then on the same logic because if they don't build a touch screen into their controller or a
It's just a
touchpad
big
into
button,
their
but
next
they haven't done like designs. It's one big button essentially. I've been a big fan of it, and it's dumb. It's one big button though. They don't use that tracing. They don't use the touch screen.
there
They
are
haven't
some
done
games
it. Yeah.
that
A
use
few, but I'm like, I'm ready to say, if those aren't supported, that's fine. But those are like
so
one
that's what I'm
percent
saying.
of
Like
the
you could
100%.
play Ocarina, you can play Mario Kart, you can play this. So it's maybe like don't go play the games that don't work on certain control schemes. But like
I just I
I
just think
don't
the
think there's an
N64
easy
controller
solution.
didn't make the games better. I think
It
you could
didn't.
say,
No, the N64 controller was a horrible
well, that's what I'm
split
saying.
armed
You know what?
mess,
Complete.
but
Well,
there's
that's
no
what I'm
way
saying.
around it.
Well, they could
It's done.
completely
It's
do it.
written in history.
No, but they could completely change it, Mark. It's called
There's
actually
not enough
putting money in. No, they could completely change it and put money into it, but they don't want to because they want to make the most money with the least amount of effort.
but
Because
that's
you
not
could completely,
emulation.
absolutely, it's not
It's
emulation, and
creating.
that no. But Nintendo's not telling us that we have to do emulation. Nintendo's saying play our games on a modern console. They're
I
not saying,
suppose.
"Oh, we're going to port ROMs to the system. Enjoy. We're paying $10 because somebody else can do this. You can play these games on other systems with modern controllers." That's what I'm saying.
But it
That's what I'm
doesn't
saying.
work on modern controller. Go play Banjo Kazooie on the Rare Replay collection. It sucks because there's no C sticks. There's no C
Exactly,
buttons.
because Xbox is inheriting these games from Nintendo that where they're like,
But even
this
if
is
they're
horrible.
redoing like they've tried to remap it, it just doesn't feel the same because
Yeah.
we've
Well,
moved on. There's no modern
and
controller solution
maybe
for this
that's the
stuff.
point. We shouldn't play these games anymore or have them
I
remade.
think that's
And
the
that's where I'm
answer. I
like,
think that's
I think, and I totally agree. I think I'd rather have remakes and remasters that actually add in all these quality of life measures versus than just port old stuff. You have ways to play those if you want to, but it's not the best way to play it. It's not respecting your time and efforts. And I play these games I'm like, that's great, awesome. I'm moving on. I'm not going to enjoy what the creators created and what they intended because I'm unfortunately tied to past hardware, which is just limited. And that's just
right.
not great. So I would love an Ocarina of Time that was a modern like remaster.
I
But I'm
would
not going to play Ocarina of
absolutely.
Time. Yeah.
Yeah, I would absolutely still love them to remake Ocarina of Time in the Breath of the Wild engine or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, I'd play the hell out of that one, but I also desperately at this point want an N64 controller, and actually I want two of them because my wife, after playing a couple of minutes of again Mario Kart and Ocarina, was like, "No, we need the original controllers. We need two of them. I need to kick your ass at Mario Kart," and she did with a Switch controller, which I need to keep practicing. Um, but it's one of those things that, like, to me, this is emulation. This isn't remastering or remaking.
No,
This is pure
no,
emulation, and it's best played. It's kind of sad that the Switch is a hybrid console, because I don't think these games specifically translate, like I said, to a modern control scheme, and therefore don't translate well to handheld. But I think, in lieu of a N64 classic with the controllers bundled in, I think this is going to be the next best thing for an all-encompassing emulation. Like Pixelrina said, you could break it down granularly and have emulations for each one of them, like they used to do for Virtual Console, or for this price. And say what you will about the price. Again, I split it between like 5 or 6 people, so it didn't cost much for the upgrade
sure.
for the year. And all of us are excited to play the Animal Crossing DLC, so we saved a ton of money, really, if we were all bought that separately. But for this specifically, I'm looking at it like an emulation machine. I'm looking at it like the classic console, and I want that controller. And I think when I get that controller, this is going to be great, because it's going to take me right back to when I was, whatever, 10 years old or whatever, and the N64 was the thing. And playing whatever, Mario Kart 64 battle mode and races. And again, I apologize for who I'm going to become when Wave Race comes out. I am going to play the hell out of that. And I hope that I'm playing it with a proper controller, because right now, yeah, it does leave a lot to be desired. But I think the emulation is not the best, but good enough. But I think I stick to my guns that without changing everything, there's no way to properly emulate the controller from the N64 era on a modern controller, because we have an analog stick now rather than 4 extra buttons.
Yeah,
So
like the Dreamcast. Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
So
exactly.
it's tough, but I think from an emulation standpoint, it seems like this is the best we're going to get officially for the time being. So I'm fairly overall happy with it, but I think either third party or Nintendo, someone has to ramp up the N64 controller production, because that's the way these are meant to be played. And I think until we get that, I don't think anyone's going to be happy.
The issue is we've got 90 million Switches sold, or whatever it is now, versus there are only 30 million N60. Yeah, there are only 30 million N64s, Mark. So there's far less people that own this than played that with that controller. Problem with that is now people are going to have to do that. Yeah, and think of, like, in your household,
N64 controllers.
Yeah,
I wish there was like the GameCube adapter for Smash Brothers. If there was that, I'd plug that thing into my dock and just plug the N64 controller.
Well, your analog stick doesn't work anymore, though. They're probably limp and dead.
I might have one.
Exactly.
I know some of them are like, they need a little Viagra, but like I have one that I'm pretty sure still works.
Exactly. So each family now has to buy eight N64 controllers, $50 pop. If you understand the math of this, you understand why Nintendo is doing this. They're incorporating nostalgia. They're milking you for nostalgia, and it's fine. And I will say this, and if you go into the deep recesses of emulation, you see what they've been able to do on PC, high resolution, things like that. And it is what it is. Totally get it. But if you can buy these games where you should, do so. And if you're nostalgic for these games, this is the best way to play it now. So definitely do it. It's just frustrating me because I didn't grow up with the N64. So this just feels very off and not right. So I'm like trying, like, okay, I've experienced it. It is what it is. But I'm glad it's available, and it is a higher price than we're used to. The Animal Crossing DLC is out. That's tied to this. We've seen this emulation done with the PlayStation Classic. We have PlayStation Now. We have the 360 and Xbox One emulation on those consoles as well. And if you own a PC, you can go back to the dark ages of PC as well on Steam. It's there. So if you want to just really go after that, but I will say after all of this, I want remasters. I want remakes.
Yeah.
I want the best way to play with the modern convenience. Like I loved Link's Awakening. on
Oh
Switch.
yeah, absolutely.
I don't want to play on the Game Boy. Monochromatic, probably no save points, bad, like all these quality of life things. I want
Hmm.
more of that. I want to play Ocarina of Time, Majora's Mask, all of these games with modern conveniences. So we maybe get to a point, Mark, where it's like it's okay to do that, but it's like it's 40 years old, 50 years old. We're gonna get to the point, Mark. We're really old. These games are just like it's like a museum piece versus a
Well,
playable
that's
piece, right?
and we started this off with the buy rent return, and I returned the NES for
Yeah,
that reason because they're hard to go back to, and realistically, N64 is the NES of 3D gaming.
yeah.
It's hard to
PlayStation
go
1.
back to some of
Yeah,
these.
it is.
PlayStation 1's got the same issue, and both of those systems have pros and cons with CD technology doing a little bit more, but also not being as stable, for the graphics and stuff like that. N64 carts and some of the things and choices that they made with that system, great polygons, but pretty, low res kind of thing. They could do some basic textures, and that doesn't always translate well to emulations as we're seeing right now. So it's this is the NES era of 3D gaming. I'll say it again. Like this is it's tough to go back to, no matter how you're going back to it, whether it's you're playing the actual console
It
or you're
is.
doing some emulation like this. It's tough, but it's a cool museum piece, and it's like you said, it's a neat thing to check back into. But unless like me, there's a few games that I want to go back to for that nostalgia piece and whatever. But uh, really, like I'm not rushing to play Winback because I never played that game before, and I don't really care if I go back and experience it for the first time now because it's like, how good's it going to be as an N64? Do I want to slog through that? Right? Like, it's tough, man. But I'm happy it's here. I'm happy because there's someone that I'm saying like I'm going to become just a terrible toxic person when Wave Race comes out because I'm going to be like toxically positive and just like, yeah, Wave Race, finally. And there's someone out there, I'm sure, that's like, win back. That's the game I rented from Blockbuster every weekend. Yeah. And I'm happy for that person.
Absolutely. It becomes like even in the original Xbox. I mean, and we talk about that backwards compatibility. Only 19 original Xbox games are backwards compatible. There's a huge library that isn't, which
Mm-hmm.
that's why I bought an Xbox 360 so I could play those old games. They are dated, but they still play pretty well. But a lot of it is licensing and all those crappy things that we have to deal with. So
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited to see where this goes, Mark. And it's going to be interesting. And we do have Xbox in essentially a couple of days is going to have their 20th anniversary. We're
Yeah.
probably going to expect more backwards compatibility and all of these things that look back to the original Xbox. And I'm like, I can't wait. I hope they make them even better. And if they can't make them better on the original systems, bring them back to modern consoles with an
Mm-hmm.
HD remake or remaster.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, that is it. Agree to disagree with either
This
Mark or
got heated, man.
myself.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I
This
loved
is,
it, Mark. Oh my
dude, this
goodness,
was fun. This is like we don't
oh
usually kind
yeah,
of butt heads like that. That was some good stuff.
no,
I want to see where like Discord and Twitter comes down on this. Like, you on Team Mark or Team Todd? Because like this is the new what's it? Edward versus Jacob. That was Twilight, right?
yeah, I'm a werewolf. You're a vampire, Mark. You sparkle, I
I'm a barrier. Come on.
glint. You're kind of like Vancouver of the West or the East, I guess, and I'm the middle. So there we go. Yeah, so this is a lot of fun. So Mark, tell people where they can find you in the gaming sphere.
Well, like we said, we are doing Extra Life, so I would love if people jumped in our Discord to keep up with everything we're doing, and also follow me on Twitter. So that's the_Canardian. I'll be posting all the game day stuff there. So please give me a follow. Also, I'm stupidly close to 600 followers, I think, right now. I might have crossed it. Hold on. I'm going to check. Because
Mark, it's all because of dad jokes.
yeah,
Star
exactly.
Wars dad jokes. Yeah.
594. I'm so stupidly close. So if you guys could follow me, get me to 600 for my birthday, that would be amazing. And yeah, we'll see you. We'll see you on Extra Life Day.
Yeah, if you want to follow me on gaming, Sparty on 98. I'm a Michigan State grad. Go State. We beat Michigan this week. I'm on Xbox and Switch at Spartyon98, on PSN, Spartyon1998, and at Toxtra. And we will leave the rest of the things to check out at the end of the credits. So I will say this, folks. Thank you for joining us on this voyage in gaming. We really appreciate anyone that follows us, subscribes to our YouTube, and does all those cool things, because we think you're awesome. So, Mark, as always, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for being an awesome Canadian and Canadian. For the Minnesotans and the people in the States, thank you for joining us in the Secret Friends Unite community, and my Twitter as well at Toxtra. And we will check you out. And remember, folks, it's always better to game together.
This podcast is part of the Secret Friends Unite podcasting network. Visit secretfriendsunite.com for more great shows, articles, news, reviews, and more. Secret Friends Unite podcasts are available on Apple, Google, Spotify, and other podcast services around the world. If you'd like to be part of the conversation, you can join us on Facebook or our new Discord server, or follow at Secret Friends U on Twitter. Please subscribe to Secret Friends Unite on YouTube and visit our merch store at tpublic.com. Just search Secret Friends Unite. Thanks for listening.